So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and this is another episode of Backroads, Arizona. In this video, I'm going to be replacing the Gravity City Water Fill hatch on my Weekend Warrior toy hauler. Now, what I made the mistake of is I just measured the outside diameter, not really paying attention to the inside diameters, and I ended up ordering one that was a little different in size, and I had to modify my toy hauler to make it work. And I ended up doing that just because the one I bought had a cover and was only $20. The one that matched size-wise that I could find on Amazon that was the same as mine was over $50. So this video is going to have a couple extra steps that might not be necessary if you get a direct replacement. But those extra steps aren't that much of this video. So let's get to it. So right here, I'm just in the process of pulling the old cover off. Now these are square drive screws, as with 95% of everything on a toy hauler. After getting those off, I grabbed a razor blade because I figured I was going to have to cut the silicone around it before being able to pull it off. However, mine came off very easily. Then using a 5/16 nut driver on my drill, I removed the hose clamp for the hose for the freshwater holding tank, and then removed the hose for the breather for the holding tank as well. Then I took a quick look at the new cover as far as the pressure hose goes and made sure it was the same fitting and where I needed to remove it off of this cover. There was still a little water pressure in my hose, which was kind of impressive because it had been sitting a while. Then I set the new cover up into place and realized that it doesn't fit. So I do recommend pulling your old one beforehand and measuring it out. Now it's very critical on the inside measurements as well as the outside measurements to make sure it's going to cover the hole and make sure it'll fit in the hole. Also check to make sure your hose fittings are in the same location as well, as I found out later in this video. That was the mistake that I made. I just measured the outside diameter without pulling it off to check the inside diameter and ended up ordering one that wasn't the same dimensions on the inside. So I did get mine off of Amazon, and as you can see, this is the one I bought. It was $21 and it has a cover. The one that actually matches the inside diameter as well as the outside for my toy hauler was over $50, and that's why I went ahead and decided to modify the toy hauler a little bit to make it work. So after removing the old one, I took a razor scraper and scraped off all the old putty. Then I measured out the inside diameter of the cover that I got and used my Sawzall to cut out the area that I had marked out. Now I wanted to go centered top to bottom, but I couldn't because there was wiring right above the hole. So I did have to put mine all the way to the bottom. So watch out for any wiring, hoses, etc. that might be behind, and make sure you get them out of the way before using the saw. Now the only reason I did this is because I wasn't hurting anything structural, because I only had to cut out about a ½ inch of material, and I was taking that material out of a 2x2, so there was still plenty of strength left. Once I got that cut out and it was a nice tight fit, I used some roof caulking because it stays flexible through its entire life to seal the cover to the toy hauler, pushed it in place, and then using the same screws that I took out of the other one, I put them in, and you'll notice I'm putting them in at a taper to make sure that they bite good into the 2x2s that were surrounding the cover. You'll notice on this screw, I did not put it in at an angle, and it did not bite the first 2 times that I put it in. Once I got it at a good enough angle, then it bit and pulled down tight. Then using my fingers, I just wiped off the excess roof caulking and gave it a clean finish. When putting that caulking on, I did do a double layer on the top half to make sure I had no possible leaks that would get in to the toy hauler. I've also heard of a lot of people using a wet sponge to spread silicone. I just have better luck with my finger. Since I didn't end up having enough slack to hook all the hoses up from the outside before screwing it in, I had to remove some of the kitchen drawers. You'll notice there's a little push-in tab once you pull the drawer out partially, and that's how you get these drawers out. This top drawer was giving me some fits because there's a little bracket that they staple into the front of the drawer to hold it shut so it doesn't come out while you're driving down the road. And it had come off and gotten jammed up in the bracket that staples to the back of the drawer to keep it from falling out when you pull it out. So after about 2 minutes of trying to be nice with it, I got pissed off, got a pair of pliers, ripped it out, and was able to get it out of there. So after finally getting that drawer removed, I was able to get in there I did have to modify my breather a little bit because it was a 3/4 inch hose, and on the cover that I got it was only a 3/8 hose. So I took a short little piece of 3/8 hose and some zip ties and got a couple hose barb fittings and made an adapter to reduce it down. Then I ended up using another zip tie to hold that hose onto the cover itself. So from what I've heard, there's two common sizes that they will use for the holding tank fill, and most covers do come with both sizes on the hose barb. So pushing that hose on and then tightening that hose clamp, I had to have my wife use one hand to hold that hose clamp in place while I reached in with one of my hands and tightened it down with a nut driver. One helpful hint with dealing with hose clamps, guys, is the bigger ones are normally a 5/16 hex and the smaller ones are a 1/4 inch. It is way easier to tighten these things down with a nut driver versus tightening them down with a flathead screwdriver. You will not slip off nearly as much, and especially when you're in a tight spot like this is, it's way easier to use. Once getting everything hooked up, I ran water into the holding tank for a little while to make sure I had no leaks, and then hooked the garden hose up with my pressure regulator to the pressure line to make sure I did not have any leaks there as well. After cleaning up the mess that was underneath that cabinet because those drawers hadn't been out in a while, I ran into the second problem that I did not foresee. Because of the way that cover had the hoses going, my one drawer was hitting the hoses and would not close all the way. So I ended up modifying my drawer to make it work. So I'm going to get into how I ended up doing that. This might not be necessary, and if not, I'll hopefully see you guys on the next video. So to modify this drawer, all I did was smack the drawer apart on the back end. It's only held in by a couple staples, and then I lifted out the bottom. Then I ended up putting it on my miter saw and cut about 4 inches off of the bottom of the drawer. Then I cut 4 inches off of each one of the sides of the drawer itself. Then I removed the bracket that kept the drawer from falling out because I wanted to reposition it. Removed a couple staples with a pair of pliers, smacked the remaining staples back down with a hammer. I re-anchored that front bracket to keep the drawer from falling out while you're driving with just a screw. Then I went ahead and assembled the drawer back together using 2 screws on each side, using a countersink drill bit so they would be flush on the side of the drawer. Then I anchored the plastic bracket that keeps the drawer from falling out when you open it. However, when I did that, I did not anchor it flush to the back of the drawer like it was. I extended it out a couple inches past so I could still get full use out of that drawer, as you can see in the picture here. As you'll notice in the next drawer that I open, you lose about 2 inches of that drawer. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and it gave you some good information. If so, hit like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. I've got all kinds of other DIYs, all with the same intention. Don't waste your time and give you good information so you can save money by doing it yourself. Hope to see you next time. Later.